Fantastic. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Technology Committee meeting. Do want to welcome our newest board member. I've not had a chance to talk to Supervisor Kuehl last month, but Sheila, welcome aboard. Looking forward to having you on this committee and to serve the South Coast Air Quality Management District. It's going to be a great ride. Happy to have you on board.
Thank you so much. I'm not as happy as I am to be here, even.
So with that, we do have a quorum. Seems like we have all members present. Fantastic.
Should be down there.
So, members, if I can direct your attention to the agenda, I'd like to take items 2, 4, and 5 on consent, unless any of you would like to pull any of those items, 2, 4, and 5. Any of those items? If hearing none, just like to have a motion to then approve items 2, 4, and 5 on consent.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Thank you. So moved by Councilmember Mitchell, seconded by Supervisor Rutherford. And I believe we have to have a roll call vote.
That's correct.
Is that my understanding?
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move forward on a roll call vote.
Supervisor Kuehl,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Rutherford,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So with that, we'll take item number, what's that?
Motion passes 6 ayes.
Thank you. So with that, let's take item number 1.
Okay.
Item number 1, if we can have Brian present.
Thank you, Chairman Buscaino. This item is to execute contracts to conduct in-use emission studies to characterize PM emissions from gasoline direct injection vehicles, as well as to support establishment of renewable natural gas center at the UC Riverside. Just provide just a brief background first is mobile sources, as we know, represent the majority of the NOx and PM emissions in the basins. And it is critical to reduce the emissions from mobile sources to achieve the attainment with stringent ambient air quality standards that we are facing to meet. And what's also equally important is to fully evaluate these new technologies as they become mature and commercialized, to ensure that they do not cause any adverse impact on air quality or the public health, and if necessary, identify mitigation measures to reduce and minimize such an impact. Based on these directives, staff recommends the following two proposals from UC Riverside CSERT. First one is to conduct a in-use emission study from GDI vehicles, and second is to support establishment of a renewable natural gas research center to study promising R&D production technologies. First, to provide an overview of the in-use emission studies, GDI vehicles are gaining in popularity amongst automakers, mainly due to its higher fuel economy as well as power output benefits. However, recent tests, including the tests conducted by CARB and EPA, have shown that GDI vehicles does emit higher PM emissions both in mass and particle numbers compared to the conventional port fuel injection vehicle. And SCAQMD also funded a study with UC Riverside to characterize PM emissions from a sample number of GDI vehicles, and the preliminary test results also show similar assessment. However, considering most of these testings that have been conducted so far were done in a lab over a test duty cycle using a chassis dyno, these test results may not reflect the true emission impact from GDI vehicles in a real-world driving condition. So to address this issue, CSERT is proposing to conduct in-use emission testing with 3 sample GDI vehicles. to measure PM and PN emissions in the real-world driving conditions with advanced portable emission measurement systems, or PEMS. Test vehicles will be selected from a pool of GDI models that were previously tested by CARB. This is to compare the test results later with the test data that will be provided from CARB that was done over chassis dyno testing. The vehicles will be driven over 3 different test routes that will be basically determined in consultation with CARB as well as with CSER to simulate urban, rural, and highway driving patterns in the project. In addition, one of the test vehicles will be also tested with a gasoline particulate filter, or GPF, that will be provided by MECA or manufacturers of the emission controls associations to evaluate its efficacy to control PM emissions. The estimated total project cost is around $270,000, and which will include about $51,000 in-kind cost share from MECA, and UC Riverside is requesting AQMD to fund the remaining balance of about $220,000 for this project. Now, as for the second proposal for the Renewable Natural Gas Research Center, as identified in the draft 2016 AQMP, near 0.02 gram NOx natural gas engines represent a key strategy to reduce a significant amount of NOx reductions, as well as to achieve attainment with the ambient air quality standards for ozone in the future. And also utilizing the RNGs for these engines will also provide significant co-benefits in GHG reductions, as well as opportunities to cost share and leverage funding from federal and state agencies. However, based on the current estimate, the current production capacity for the RNG is well short of what's needed to support wide-scale deployment of natural gas engine vehicles. And so further studies needed to develop and demonstrate promising RNG technologies. So as such, the CSER is proposing to establish a RNG research center to study promising and key RNG production technologies at their campus, and is requesting the support from us to implement the phase 1 of that research center project, which will include evaluation of RNG production potentials through various pathways, including thermochemical conversion of biomass, as well as power to gas conversion of excess renewable electricity into hydrogen and methane. CSER will also conduct detailed analysis of potential projects to assess its viability, both in terms of economical and technological perspectives, as well as develop a basic design for the demonstration scale projects, and also prepare and investigate commercialization roadmap for those selected projects. As shown in the table, the proposed project will cost approximately $260,000, and the CSER is requesting $100,000 from South Coast AQMD. And Southern SoCalGas will be also providing $100,000 in cost share, and the remaining balance of roughly about $60K will be supported by
That's just for the center.
U.S. Department of Transportation grant, as well as in-kind cost share from UC Riverside. So in closing, staff recommends execution of the contracts with UC Riverside for 2 projects as I went over. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Colleagues, any questions on this item before you?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember?
I noticed that your report said that, excuse me, CARB had done some testing of these GDI models. Am I understanding correctly that they did testing on the dynamometer, how do you say that?
Ladder, chassis dynamometer.
And they didn't do in-use testing,
They did not.
and that's why we're doing it.
Correct.
And where does our money come from to do this, $292,000?
This is all from the Clean Fuels Program, so our
Okay.
$10 million a year, $10 to $12 million a year that we are authorized by the state for research and development demonstration of
Okay,
advanced technologies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any others?
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor
Yes.
Gill has a question.
It's,
Yes, Supervisor Kuehl.
thank you very much. So the question, I just want to understand when you said, Councilmember Mitchell asked the question about whether it was a different kind of GDI test. Does that mean there have not been tests, tailpipe emission tests on the, related to this? I kind of want to know
So,
if there are other studies that are similar.
so the test that ARB did, and we also helped co-fund some of those tests, is they actually put the vehicle on, it's somewhat like a, when you're smog test, you put the vehicle on a roller, so that's a chassis dynamometer, and they run it through a duty cycle so they can change the loads, and then they'll put in a probe and they'll take emissions measurements. What CSERT has is a unique capability of putting, there's a slide that showed this box at the back end of the vehicle, so they can actually drive the vehicle around and collect measurements as they're doing that. And so that's what they're proposing to do under this study, because we found, especially with heavy duty, a lot of times the in-use emissions can be much different than the tailpipe emissions when it's done on a standard cycle.
So the hypothesis is these will be different, and there are no other tests that have been conducted like this.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification,
Mayor Pro Tem.
this is a little bit different, but what we found with the VW scandal,
Mayor McCallum or Council?
test,
Mayor Pro Tem.
with the VW scandal,
Yeah.
they've been tested in the
Yes.
demonstrator and passed, but when you put them out on the road, they didn't pass.
Right.
So it's a different, you get different results when you're actually out on
We
the
don't suspect
road.
any cheat devices here.
No, we don't suspect that, I'm just.
Just to
using
be
that-
clear.
No, I'm using that as an example of how, just as an example of how, you get different results depending on where you're doing the testing. So, no, I know we don't expect cheap prices.
Okay, Mayor McCallum, do you have your hand up?
No, I didn't, but I'll go ahead and move the item.
Very good. We have a motion to move item number 1. Second?
Second for Mr. Robinson.
Oh, thank you so much. Did not hear that. So roll call vote on item number 1, please.
Supervisor Kuehl,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Rutherford. Aye. Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 ayes.
Councilman, we have public comment.
Thank you. Please bring forward the public comment. Thank you.
I don't know, is public comment supposed to come before the vote?
Yes.
Okay, so what can we do?
Let us then reconsider item 1 and bring forward the public comment. If I can just have staff, let me know if we have any cards on any other items. Thank you.
I'm Harvey Yetter with the Public Solar Power Coalition. Have come before the board about natural gas versus solar, problems with natural gas, fossil fuels. This research center, it seems like it's pushing renewable natural gas. There are big problems with it. The numbers have to be changed around based on the carbon, CO2 equivalents, the new numbers from the plant, etc. There is in the record now exhibits about drug-resistant antibiotics that are caused by waste disposal systems that are used as renewable natural gas. Landfills, waste treatment facilities, and animal manure, where over 70% of human antibiotics are being used on animals. This is in our gas distribution system now. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of deaths. They're not even reported in the state. In hospitals, it's not going to be reported until next year. This kind of stuff has to be studied. I don't think, pushing this stuff should be funded by the district. And they should be working with wastewater people. They had in London a what do you call them, birth control pills from women got into the Thames, and you had male fish that turned female, all kinds of stuff's going on. People are dying, and this, premature death it costs the society $9 million per, this has to be calculated in the socioeconomic, the CEQA and the plan, and this stuff needs to be taken care of, and we shouldn't be pushing this until we have the precautionary principle and applying it to this. We're going head over heels into this stuff without being conscientious and taking the best interest of society.
Thank you. So now let us now reconsider and a voice vote on item number 1.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask
Yes.
our staff to respond to those comments, and what would be the source of the renewable natural gas?
So they're gonna look at a broad variety of waste streams, so any renewable could be leafy, bio waste, it could be digesters,
Also,
solid.
Right, in
Municipal solid
addition
waste.
to the biomass, actually, the big component of this proposed center is to look at the power to gas technology using the solar, wind, the electricity. So these will be actually now associated with the antibiotics, as raised by, basically.
You'll notice that the SoCalGas is putting in an equivalent amount of funding, so two things is they're looking at power to gas, so that's the electricity, the renewable electricity that's coming from solar, converting that to hydrogen and then possible reinjection. So that's the other part, is reinjecting either hydrogen or renewable natural gas back into the pipeline.
And just to add on to Matt's comment, this is Henry Hoga, that the natural gas, the renewable natural gas itself is just basically methane. And this will be actually purer than the methane that's in the pipeline, because that has impurities. And once it's processed from the waste material, it's pretty much pure methane.
Pure methane.
So should be cleaner without the impurities.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Okay, with that, let's go to a voice vote on item number 1, please.
Supervisor Kuehl,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum, Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Rutherford. Aye. Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 ayes.
Thank you for that. Next item number 3. If we can bring forward Joseph Lopat. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Good day, board members. My name is Joseph Lopat, as just mentioned. I recently came to join the South Coast Air Quality Management District this last year. My past experiences from Cummins engines and a multitude of diesel engine platforms. And please accept the following proposal to recognize revenue and execute a contract for the development of ultra-low emissions diesel engines for on-road heavy-duty vehicles. Heavy-duty diesel vehicles are largest source emitters of NOx in the South Coast Air Basin. Further reduction is required to meet national ambient air quality standards. This proposal supports the district's petition for a national heavy-duty engine standard, which the EPA has just initiated action towards this past December. In July 2016, the board issued an RFI for the development of an ultra-low NOx heavy-duty diesel engine. The best proposal we received was from Southwest Research Institute. Southwest Research recently developed with CARB an ultra-low NOx 13-liter diesel engine, and they were successful at it. This engine is commonly used in city and in drayage operations and is a contributor of high-level emissions due to its duty cycle. The 13-liter engine, although popular, is not favored in long-haul trucking from a mechanic and driver's perspective. It is desired for any engine to run at a so-called sweet spot of optimal performance and fuel economy. A 13-liter engine in a heavy-duty long-haul truck will be running at cruising speed, a maximum power, and maximum mechanical limits. A 15-liter engine, on the other hand, will be running at optimal performance and fuel economy at the same cruising speed. CARB and the ports of Los Angeles and recently the ports of Long Beach have all expressed interest in working further with Southwest Research in applying the lessons learned on the 13-liter towards a larger 15-liter engine platform. The focus on this would be for low lows and cold starts because the larger engine has the most emissions at that point of the engine cycle. Southwest Research will be required to identify specific test cycles for larger engines, fuel performance with renewable diesel, define control strategies, after treatment technologies at all loads and temperatures to achieve ultra-low NOx in a real-world in-use testing. As the chart shows above, you can see that CARB has shown substantial interest by contracting directly to Southwest Research, $750,000 or 56% of a $1,325,000 proposal. The ports will contribute directly through the district's Clean Fuels Fund, $287,500. Well, that leaves South Coast SCAQMD, $287,500 remaining. Staff recommends to recognize upon receipt up to $287,500 from the ports into the Clean Fuels Fund and execute contract with Southwest Research to develop an ultra-low NOx diesel engine for on-road heavy-duty vehicles in an amount not to exceed $575,000 from the fund. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. This is the type of technology that's needed, colleagues, to not only improve the air quality in and around our basin, but also in the port neighborhoods as well. So, and this is why this technology committee exists today, advancing technology that will create better environment for our entire region. I'm real excited and support this moving forward. I do understand that there may be an increase in PMs and emissions, but that'll be addressed as part of this development. Is that correct?
Well, Councilman, this is Matt. So the obvious goal is to ensure that it meets the same performance standards of the existing diesel engines. But if they use renewable diesel, then there will be very little or no PM.
Understood. Thanks, Matt, for clarifying that. Turn over to the colleagues. Anyone on the committee have any questions?
Joe, this is Sheila. Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Thank you. I want to distinguish between non-fossil and fossil renewables in this area. I wonder whether there's any possibility. I think the company for the contract is a research institute, right?
Yes.
So have they indicated in their research that they're looking at renewable non-fossil ready engines as well as renewable fossil engines? Because there's, biofuels, non-fossil. And even though it sort of has benefits in areas that are not only about air quality, we might be talking greenhouse gas kind of things. I'm not certain, so long as we're going to partner with them, or at least, kind of co-fund, or maybe we're just a pass-through, but it's co-funding.
Or co-funding.
Whether we can even sort of prefer some research about that, or at least make certain it's included?
We'll certainly inquire and make sure that it's included, but there shouldn't be any detrimental effect. So they're going to develop it with using ultra-low carb diesel, but having then a drop-in of a renewable diesel or a biodiesel shouldn't affect the performance. Because they'll be using so much after treatment, it shouldn't affect the emissions.
Right.
But we'll verify that.
Just so long as it's included. Sometimes, when we talk about renewable diesel, it's not always clear that we mean both types.
That's a good point.
Mr. Chairman, could I follow up with
Yes.
a question? This is
Yes.
always been a bit of a mystery to me, and I keep trying to sort it out, because there's biodiesel and there's renewable diesel, and they're different. And so Henry or Matt, or you, perhaps, our new person, could talk about that.
So let me start. So biodiesel is a generic name for any type of diesel type fuel that's produced from a biological source, like a waste stream and food waste, grease, produce biodiesel. Renewable diesel is the same as biodiesel, but the feedstock is different and the process is different. So when we take grease and turn into biodiesel, usually it produces fatty acids, and the acronym is FAME. Biodiesel, they have a detriment on NOx. When it's used in engines, it actually increases the NOx emissions. And so that type of biodiesel we have not recommended use in our basin. However, the renewable diesel is produced from, excuse me, from waste material that is hydrogen. And that process produces a diesel fuel that actually can reduce NOx on engines that do not have SCR on them. Engines with SCR, there's no difference. But both biodiesel and renewable diesel are being blended into regular diesel fuel to reduce, it's a requirement actually, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that's the main requirement as part of ARB specs. So no more than 5% is being used, and there's no detriment at that level. It's when biodiesel, the traditional biodiesel is used in higher quantities at a time. So that's the difference, and we have been supporting the renewable diesel fuel, and that's part of the AQMP as a low emission diesel fuel that the Air Resources Board believes is going to be very important in the future, not only for greenhouse gas purposes, but also for air quality purpose. Now, Supervisor, you asked about the difference between fossil-based diesel or renewable diesel and a pure renewable source, such as a waste stream. We would recommend that, as Matt mentioned, that we ensure that the renewable diesel be from such a feedstock, because gas to liquid fuels are generally produced as a byproduct of the natural gas process from refineries. And so we can look at where that source is, whether it's going to be a gas to liquid type fuel versus a pure renewable diesel fuel.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
Thank you. Council member, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't quite finished. I have some more questions.
Yep.
Okay, this study is focusing on the 13-liter engine. Am I right about that?
It's actually a larger 15.
15 liter.
Well, you're going to focus on
So
15
the
liter.
ARB has already done a study with a 13-liter Volvo engine, so this is adding another engine, the larger format.
Good, and that 15 liter is the long haul, which is what we need.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. I think that's all my questions.
Councilman, did you have a
I
question?
just have one. Everything else can answer.
Councilmember Robinson.
Are we in some way going to be testing the degradation over the useful life of the truck? So, you know, it starts out in year 1 as 0.02, and year 5 we're at 0.04.
Yeah, so the intent of this project is to just see the feasibility, because my understanding is they did it on like a single cylinder, or they did some tests to see what series of different emission controls they could get down to that 0.02 level. So this is now going to take those technologies and put it onto a full engine. And so it's really kind of a proof of concept to ensure that you could get down to that. And then obviously the next step is to qualify it, put it into a truck and actually run it. But this is really just the development of the engine.
Okay, so at that next stage, that's when we'd be looking at
That's when you have to
that.
look at degradation and look
Okay.
at certification and all those good things.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'll move the item if there are no more questions.
Is there public comment?
Okay, we have,
Public comment?
any comment?
Yes. Harvey's here.
The alternative, this is Harvey Etter, Director of the Public Solar Power Coalition. The alternative to use renewable diesel, renewable natural gas is solar, electric, battery vehicles. There's other technologies and solar hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And these have got to be evaluated and compared, and with all the warts and everything else that have been talked about in these several meetings today and on the record. Also, I thought something was, I was looking for a quote from Matt about, little or no particulate matter. That's not true. The study that I referred to with particulates coming out on the ultrafine from the 100 megawatt GE turbine that Al Baez and UC Riverside have done. You've got to look at this also in combustion, all different types of combustion, and it's got to be studied. You can't go headlong just into this stuff. And solar with life cycle cost efficiency is coming way down. And the current issue of solar industry, Sunshot said in half the time out of 5 out of a 10-year plan, they reduced the cost of solar 90% in half the time. And by 2030, they've now got numbers of 2 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour for solar electric. And that could be, by 2023. Well, anyway, there's considerable impact to society when solar becomes that inexpensive. Manufacturing plants, robotics, artificial intelligence, loss of jobs, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be looked at, political economics as well as socioeconomics.
Thank you. We have a second on this item?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a first and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Supervisor Kuhl,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Rutherford. Aye. Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 ayes.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6. This is a presentation item before us. Yeah, I have it. Five. Oh, here we go. So Ms. Kwan here?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay, welcome. Thank you. Item number 6.
Good afternoon. I'm here to present an update on our EV charger installation here at headquarters and then on charging policy recommendations. So this is just an overview of the different areas that we're working on. And in September of last year, the board approved the installation of EV chargers, level 2 chargers. The first phase on the upper deck's been completed, and we have remaining phases that will be completed early this year. So staff was asked to come up with some options for an EV charging policy to incorporate some cost recovery as well. The idea being that there would be equitable costs for staff and public and some electricity cost recovery. So in terms of the capabilities, the Greenlight software that we're using as a networking platform for the chargers is capable of showing real-time availability of the charging stations. It's accessible by both the phone app and the RFID card. Shows user notifications when a charging session starts or stops or rates change. And it's capable of charging in a number of different ways, whether it's flat rate, per hour, per kilowatt hour, time of day, or any other rate structure or set of rules we'd like to incorporate. just to kind of take a look at how other workplaces handle this, some facilities do charge for charging. Honda, for instance, charges employees 24 cents a kilowatt hour or guests 27 cents a kilowatt hour. Some have free workplace charging as an amenity to their staff. Our intent here at our facility is to have workplace charging that is at least somewhat on par with residential rates off-peak, let's say 13 or 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So our staff proposal initially is to go in with a phased-in electricity cost recovery at 6 cents a kilowatt hour and move towards full cost recovery. Our blended rate's about 12.6 cents per kilowatt hour, blending the peak, mid, and off-peak rates. And we also wanted to institute a flat rate of $1 per hour, and that's when a car, let's say, stays over 5 hours. So that's to avoid the whole parking without charging phenomenon. So just to kind of give you an idea of what these typical costs might be at 6 cents per kilowatt hour, you can see with the different kinds of vehicles, you know, you're talking maybe 2, 3, maybe as much as $6 per charge if you're talking about a Tesla. And this is just including that 6 cent per kilowatt hour rate and not the additional hourly rate. So staff recommendation is a partial cost recovery at this present time to allow for 6 to 12 months of data collection in conjunction with our energy management system so we can better understand the impact of demand charges. There's been input from technology advancement and human resources. We'll also consult with our employee unions. We obviously want to discourage the use of the chargers of those parking spaces without actual charging taking place. And then we would reconsider this policy after 12 months. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
Just a clarification, please, Chairman. So the software.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you. The software you're proposing is connected to the employee's iPhone or smartphone?
Yes.
That's how that works?
Yes.
So Greenlots has their own app. I just pulled it up, so you
Okay.
can, it'll show you all your charging sessions and you can, it has a map, it'll say which ones are open and whatnot. You can also, when you plug in, you can do the QR code on the charger and it'll start your session, so you don't have to carry around an extra RFID card.
Okay.
It's a pretty interesting system, but one of the other benefits is it should integrate into our building management, energy management system. So that part of our experiment is we want to be able to throttle people down if we're getting to a range we're going to incur demand charges. So you could be helping us balance our load, so during the day we're not going into demand charge situation and getting charged more. So we'll have to see how we can ensure that people are getting a full charge, but also saving on emissions, or saving on electricity rates. Patricia mentioned this kind of blended charge. Well, we first 5 hours is 6 cents a kilowatt hour. That's half of the tier 1 non-residential rates. So it's pretty inexpensive. But we have people from the community that are pulling their Teslas in. I'm pretty sure it's not a AQMD staff, but they'll park there all day and all night. So and they'll be occupying a space that otherwise someone could be using. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. So to discourage that, we want to incur this $1 per hour, so that way people won't be sitting there
Will
overnight.
that $1 per hour automatically kick in after the,
Yes.
whatever, 4
Yeah,
or 5
we can
hours?
program that into the Greenlot software.
And then are they using like a credit card or what are they using to pay? What kind of?
Currently, we're offering free electricity, so that's what we want to discourage.
But how are you gonna
But
kick
the
that in with the
Greenlots,
Tesla?
the
that's
credit
going there?
Yeah, so when you sign up, you would have to put in your credit card information, so then the charger will communicate the software and then you'll be billed.
Okay.
Do we have variable work hours here? Just in terms of, because remember in the old days we used to, so there wouldn't be, you know, all that traffic and all those air emissions. And I'm thinking that as we move more towards electric, and you're talking about not overloading at certain parts of the day or having us have to, you know, supply more expensive electricity. This is way in the future, maybe, but we might have to look or want to look at variable working hours so that people coming to charge their cars, to work and charging their cars, won't be inadvertently spiking our electrical use during, high cost times. I don't know, just something to think about, Wayne.
I was smiling because everybody works 24 hours a day, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
But not necessarily in the building.
That's correct.
I mean, we all work 24/7, or, I don't know, maybe, 18/7. And I know, it is the case, but I mean, when people are actually here or required to be here, I think there's going to be more and more electric vehicles, and as the range gets more acceptable, I think we'll find more and more people wanting to do that. And so it creates a couple of issues. The one for us, I think, is the spike issue in terms of electrical use. The other is we need to get into the battery recycling business. Not about air, I know, it's about workplace, but still.
Could be an unintended consequence.
And Supervisor, I was somewhat joking when I said people are here 24 hours a day. I left at 9 o'clock last night and I drove by the Chargers just to see them, and there were people, parked there. There are a lot of people that will work here. And I've now gotten into the habit of trying to walk through and tell people to go home. But people work here very late.
It's a good thing, because I found that, I always tell my staff, go home, and they're still on their phones, whatever. But overall, in terms of energy levels and, preparation to work and frankly, just innovation, people should work specific hours and then, check in. But I'm just thinking about electric vehicles at the moment.
It's a good idea.
And that software will help us manage that, so we can change the load curve as you go through the day.
I just want to provide some real quick feedback on my personal experience. So first of all, at City Hall, as Matt's been there and visited, I don't think that $1 an hour is going to discourage many people. So I'm just going to throw that out
Especially
there.
if they have a Tesla.
So, well, the Tesla part's ridiculous. I mean, one of my partners has a Tesla, and you just put a 240 and create your own level 2 in your garage, and you'll charge up for the 150 miles you drive in a day if you even go that far. You'll do it at night when it's not a peak time frame, and it'll work out really well. So that's just ridiculous. And those people need to be slapped across the face. Just gonna put it out. At City Hall, after 4 hours, we go to a $5 an hour charge, and I think that that seems to really discourage people parking there and the long parking. So that's just something I recommend. And then in my own business, it's a no cost for my employees, and I think that rolling this out at the beginning here, we should look at all options, but I think that especially for our own employees, we should be wanting to encourage as much electric vehicle usage as possible. So,
We recommended that, and it was discouraged by, we were encouraged by our HR that we need to offer the same benefit to the public as we would to our own employees. So if we were going to give it to employees for free, we'd have to keep it free for everyone. But that's something that we can explore.
But 6 cents is pretty reasonable. That's not much.
It's kind
I'm
of,
in concurrence
it's like a
with that.
super off-peak rate.
It really is.
So we're hoping that, and we still have to talk to the bargaining units about what they would like us to do, but ultimately it's a decision by our executive officer, and the board wants to weigh in on the policy.
So, Dwight, you offer it for your public too, Jim?
no, it's not a public station, just to
I
my
see.
own employees, and so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but,
so if we didn't, if it wasn't public, then it could be something different.
Yeah, you have something different in City Hall then, right?
at City Hall, it's one charge for everything. So.
I agree with Dwight, for $1 an hour, is it worth spending $3 or $4 and having to come out, or just absorb the cost? But at $5, that makes you want to move the car.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll see if there's
So we
public comment.
have,
Any public comment here? No.
you want to speak from the public on item number 6? Hearing none. This was an presentation only, so no action. Next item, any other business that anyone would like to present to the committee? Okay, hearing none. Let's turn to general public comment. Comment on a non-agenda item. Anyone in the audience there like to speak on public comment, please come forward now. Okay, hearing none. No one here at the Los Angeles City Hall for general public comment. With that, have a great weekend. We are now adjourned. Thank you so much.
Great weekend,